We are in a time now where new technologies for help are multiplying, and we are learning to combine some ancient healing methods, such as Ayurvedic medicine, with sound wave technology. I have been studying how sound can stimulate our brain waves and accelerate our learning and healing. There is research that shows that we can cure illness by mentally changing our DNA structure. I often emphasize the importance of mirror work in order to find out the cause of an issue that keeps us from loving ourselves. There are several ways that you can practice mirror work. I like to look in the mirror the first thing in the morning and say to myself, I love you. What can I do for you today? How can I make you happy? Listen to your inner voice and start following through with what you hear. You may not get any messages to begin with because you're so used to scolding yourself and you don't know how to respond with a kind, loving thought. If something unpleasant happens to you during the day, go to the mirror and say, I love you anyway. Because events come and go, but the love that you have for yourself can be constant. And it is the most important quality you possess in your life. If something wonderful happens, go to the mirror and say thank you. Acknowledge yourself for creating this wonderful experience. You can forgive in the mirror too. Forgive yourself and forgive others. You can talk to other people in the mirror, especially when you're afraid to talk to them in person. You can clean up old issues with people, parents, bosses, doctors, children, lovers. You can say all sorts of things that you would be afraid to say otherwise. And remember to end by asking them for their love and approval, because that is what you really want. People who have problems loving themselves are almost always people who are not willing to forgive, because not forgiving shuts the door to the heart. When we forgive and let go, not only does a huge weight drop off our shoulders, but the doorway to our own self-love opens up. People will say, oh, such a load is dropped off. Well, of course it has, because we've been carrying this burden forever. Dr. John Harrison states that forgiveness of both the self and the parents, coupled with the release of past hurts, cures more illness than any antibiotic ever could. It takes a lot to make children stop loving their parents, but when they do, it takes even more for them to forgive them. When we won't forgive, when we won't let go, we're binding ourselves to the past. And when we are stuck in the past, we cannot live in present time. And if we are not living in the present, how can we create our glorious future? Old garbage from the past just creates more garbage for the future. Affirmations performed in front of a mirror are advantageous because you learn the truth of your existence. When you do an affirmation and you immediately hear a negative response such as, who are you kidding, or it can't be true, or you don't deserve that, then you have received a gift to use. You cannot make the changes you want until you are willing to see what is holding you back. The negative response you have just discovered is like a gift in that it becomes the key to freedom. Turn that negative response into a positive affirmation, such as, I now deserve all good. I allow good experiences to fill my life. And repeat the new affirmation until it does become a new part of your life. I have also seen families change enormously when just one person does affirmations. Many people at the hayride come from estranged families. Their parents literally will not talk to them. And I've had them repeat the affirmation, I have wonderful, loving, warm, open communication with every member of my family, including my mother or including my father. Every time that person or the family comes to mind, I suggest that they go to the mirror and say the affirmation over and over again. It's often amazing to see the parents actually show up at the meeting 3 or 6 or 9 months later. Number 10, love yourself now. Don't wait until you get it right. Dissatisfaction with yourself is a habit pattern. If you can be satisfied with yourself now, if you can love and approve of yourself now, then when good comes into your life, you will be able to enjoy it. Once you learn to love yourself, you can begin to love and accept other people. We can't change other people, so leave them alone. We spend a lot of energy trying to make others different. If we used half that energy on ourselves, we could make ourselves different. And when we are different, others respond differently to us. You can't learn life for another person. Everyone has to learn his or her particular lessons. All you can do is learn for yourself, and loving yourself is the first step. So you are not brought down by other people's destructive behaviors. If you are in a situation where you are with a really negative person who doesn't want to change, you need to love yourself enough to move away from that. One woman told me that her husband was very negative and that she didn't want him to be a bad influence on her 2 little children. I suggested that she start affirming that her husband was a wonderful, supportive man who really is working on himself and is bringing out his best qualities. I told her to affirm what she would like to have happen, and every time he was negative, simply run the affirmation through her mind. However, if the relationship continued to be negative, no matter what affirmation she was saying, then that might be the answer. The relationship simply wouldn't work anymore. Because of the increasing divorce rate in our country, I think a question that many women need to ask themselves before they have children is, am I willing to support these children totally on my own? Being a single parent has become more and more the norm, and it's almost always the woman who acquires the added responsibility of raising children by herself. There was a time when marriages lasted a lifetime, but times have changed, so it's definitely a situation to be considered. Far too often we stay in abusive relationships and allow ourselves to be put down. What we are saying to ourselves is, I'm not worth loving, so I will stay here and accept this behavior because I must deserve it, and I'm sure nobody else would want me. I know that I sound simplistic and repeat the same expressions over and over again, but I truly do believe that the quickest way to change any problem is to love who we are. It's amazing how the loving vibrations we send out will attract to us people who are loving. Unconditional love is the goal I think we have come here to attain. It begins with self-acceptance and self-love. You are not here to please other people or to live your lives their way. You can only live it your own way and walk your own pathway. You have come to fulfill yourself and to express love on the deepest level. You are here to learn and grow and to absorb and project compassion and understanding. When you leave the planet, you don't take your relationship or your automobile or your bank account or your job with you. The only thing you take is your capacity to love. One of the core issues that we want to explore is healing the forgotten child within. Most of us have ignored our inner child for far too long. Doesn't matter how old you are. There is a little child within you who needs love and acceptance. If you're a woman, no matter how self-reliant you are, you have a little girl who's very tender and needs help. And if you are a man, no matter how macho you are, no matter how old you are, you still have a little boy inside of you who craves warmth and affection. Every age that you have been is within you, within your consciousness and memory. As children, when something went wrong, you tended to believe that there was something wrong with you. Children develop the idea that if they could only do it right, then parents or whoever would love them, and they wouldn't beat them or punish them. So whenever the child wants something and doesn't get it, he or she believes, I'm not good enough, I'm defective. And as we grow older, we reject certain parts of ourselves. At this point in our lives right now, we need to begin to make ourselves whole and accept every part of who we are. The part that did all the stupid things, the part that was funny looking, the part that was scared, the part that was very foolish and silly, the part that had egg on its face, every single part of ourselves. And most of the time, the parent scolds the child, almost on a non-stop basis. If you listen to your inner dialogue, you can hear the scolding. You can hear the parent tell you what you are doing wrong or how you are not good enough. Consequently, we begin a war with ourselves, and we start to criticize ourselves the way our parents have been criticizing us. You're stupid, you're not good enough, you don't do it right, screwed up again. It becomes a habit pattern. When we become adults, most of us totally ignore the child within us, or we criticize the child in the same way we used to be criticized. We continue the pattern over and over again. I once heard John Bradshaw, author of several marvelous books on healing the inner child, say that each of us has 25,000 hours of parent tapes within us by the time we are adults. How many hours of those tapes do you think are telling you how wonderful you are? How much says that you are loved, or that you are bright and intelligent, or that you could do anything you wanted to and would grow up to be the greatest person? In reality, how many hours of those tapes are saying no, no, no in all its many forms? It's no wonder we say no to ourselves, or should, all the time. We are responding to those old tapes. However, they are only tapes and are not the reality of your being. They are not the truth of your existence. They are just tapes you carry within, and they can be erased or re-recorded.